Welcome, everybody, to Dead Talk Live. I am your host, Viz, and today we are joined by Martin Harris, who has appeared in the latest season of Stranger Things, Better Call Saul, and is now in Amsterdam, which is currently playing in theaters. Martin, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm feeling great and happy to be on the show.
We are very happy to talk with you, and let's get started. I was looking over your credentials on IMDb, and you started out in 1985 as a young actor, and then you took this break and returned back to the screen in 2008. In that time period, is that when you really got the passion reignited for you for acting?
So here's the thing. Like the credit that I have on IMDb from 1985, I believe is a mistake, and I emailed them many, many times about it because I was like 7 years old at the time. I lived in East Berlin and partially in Poland, and with my father, who is a professor of history of arts, and I was thinking I'm going to be a professor of history myself. So yeah, I didn't do that one, but everything after 2008 is pretty much me. However, I'll tell you this. When I was 15, I started a heavy metal band, and for 3 years, I thought that will be my future, and then it didn't happen. And then I took a break from so-called artistic life,
Uh
and
huh.
then it came back to me, and in a form of acting. Yes.
Okay, great. And if you want, I have tons of experience of IMDb. If you do want it off, I can get it off there for you. Just to let
Really?
you know. Yeah, I can
Great.
definitely get it off there for you.
Great.
Now, you have worked as a consultant. You've done some voice work as well.
Mhm.
Do you like to keep yourself flexible and experience the different facets of the entire entertainment industry?
I do. I do. In the past, I would say I did too many things. Not just in the entertainment industry, but overall. I wrote books. For 15 years, I was a sports broadcaster before I even started acting. So I've done a lot of different things. Now I see the benefit of those experiences in my acting life because I have a lot of things from my past I can refer to and build,
Mm-hmm.
from that type of experience. But now I just focus on the entertainment industry. I would say acting and voice acting; those are my two main things. But I've also written few scripts, and I also have a concept of a TV show that I'm pitching right now. So that side of me is still there.
Nice. So, like we said, you appeared in the latest season of Stranger Things. You were a prisoner alongside David Harbour, who plays Hopper. Now, walking onto that Stranger Things set, being a massive Netflix show, what were your impressions?
So at the end of 2020, which was a very tough year because I just finished shooting Red Notice in Atlanta, and the next day we had pandemic, and I don't work for like 6, 7 months. I remember I was having my New Year's New Year's resolutions, and I wished myself to be on Better Call Saul and Stranger Things, and both things actually happened. So
Nice.
if people don't believe in the power of New Year's Eve wishes, I can tell you it works. It works. So I went to Atlanta to shoot Stranger Things right after I finished Amsterdam. So I finished Amsterdam, and then I got an email from my agent that I got Stranger Things, which was incredible because I was a huge fan of the show, and it was extremely secretive. They didn't tell me anything. I was getting sites for the scene we're shooting the next day around 10, 11 p.m. previous day.
Wow.
And we were through a link that only one person can download pretty much, so they were very, very secretive. I couldn't tell anybody I'm on Stranger Things until it aired. I couldn't put it on my websites. I couldn't make it public that I'm on the show. But at the same time, what an incredible adventure. And because of it was in the middle of pandemic, it started with long quarantine, and we were quarantined for like 2 weeks in a hotel in Atlanta, and then we were shooting fifth and sixth episode. Then they added the seventh episode in the middle of me shooting the fifth and sixth episode, which created a little bit of stress because I was already booked on the Gray Man. And now I started, really worrying if I will be able to make it to the Gray Man. And luckily enough, I flew, like when I finished my last day on Stranger Things, I flew out of Atlanta with the last plane, which was 11 p.m., and I was doing my fitting 7 a.m. in Long Beach the next day.
Wow. Well, that's a good type of busy to be. So all those Russian scenes in the prison, they were all shot in Atlanta?
Hmm. I
Wow.
would say from that arc, yes, but I know that some of the scenes they did in the I think second episode or even part of the third episode, which is his first time in the prison, where the character played by Tom Blaszka is still the prison guard, and he gets
Hmm.
imprisoned. He's with
Yeah.
us, the prisoners. I think some of it they shot in Lithuania before pandemic, from what
Okay.
they.
So
Yeah.
were a lot of the scenes just inside of a sound stage? Is that where you did the primary shooting?
No, they built the whole prison in Atlanta. They built it in.
Jeez.
Yeah, yeah. It was the whole set was just for this Russian arc. There was plenty on different stages. There was like the full prison, and they had cells, and they had this yard, and they had the tunnel, and they had the guy who played the Demogorgon. He was a very tall guy in a green suit. Yeah, everything was there.
Now, the scope of such a production, like you just mentioned, and then the set design, the costumes, the amount of personnel that must have been there, and you've been on some pretty notable shows. Has Stranger Things been one of the most impressive sets that you've been on for you, in your opinion?
Yeah, absolutely. As also because of my length of being on that set, we were there for pretty much 2 months. It was March and April 2021. So you build friendships, you build relationships with people. You also come to the same place every day, and that makes it more of an experience. When you are 2 or 3 days on a show, or a week on a show, and everything is you go through your lines, you go through your character, you shoot, and then you come back. Here, there was enough time to experience the whole thing, and going from one setup to another setup, like the whole storyline, the whole arc
Hmm.
of being in the prison with David and Tom, until the bitter end for myself. Yeah.
Oh man, that sounds so exciting. So, like I said, you are currently in Amsterdam, comedy drama, currently in theaters, alongside a very impressive cast. Now, for our audience that has never heard of Amsterdam, tell us what the movie's about, basically.
So now I finally can say more about it, because when I went to the premiere in New York, I haven't seen it yet, and because knowing from being on set how much was changing pretty much hour to hour, not only day to day, with David Arasso, who was the director,
Hmm.
incredible director. I always dreamed about working with. But he was changing a lot of things. He was throwing a lot of improv lines to actors, changing the storyline while shooting. So I didn't really know a lot of answers I was asked before the premiere, but now I know because I finally saw the movie. I think it has a very sentimental value.
Hmm.
I think it has a very strong and positive message at the very end. It has tons of humor, and some of those actors are just so extremely funny. Like Mike Myers is so extremely funny in this film.
Oh man,
Like, Jesus,
he's a
he's incredible.
he's been a funny guy for a very, very long time. He is definitely talented. Now, whenever you're on a set, regardless of size and budget, whether you're acting, consulting, doing voice work, are you always trying to learn and continue to hone your craft?
Yeah, that's extremely important part. And it's funny because I had a chance to work with some incredible actors, like, see them at work, like Colin Firth when I did The Staircase, or Christian Bale when I did Amsterdam. And for me, those are the moments I can learn the most, from masters like that. And I observed that the greatest, the best actors in the world, they never stop learning. They
Hmm.
constantly work. They work even harder than, I would say, a lot of working actors. I'm talking about the greatest actors.
Yeah.
I just saw an interview with Christian Bale, and he said that he was looking for inspiration for his character in Amsterdam, and he one day he saw this random guy walking through the streets of, I think, downtown LA, and he started imitating his walk and his movement, and he used it for the film. And he says, I've never talked to the guy, I never met the guy after that, but I borrowed something from him for the character, and this is extremely inspiring to hear that. And I remember from the set, from shooting Amsterdam, Christian Bale, and I never seen anything like that. He was in character even during the lunch breaks. I mean, he would
Wow.
talk to you normally, but he would talk with the mannerism
Hmm.
of the character. He would walk with the mannerism of the character, and what an incredible human being.
Wow, I did not know that. Going back to David O. Russell, the director of Amsterdam, the way you described him, really last minute changes. As an actor being directed by David, did that make it more challenging, not knowing what you're going to face when you went on the set every day?
For me, it was actually an adventure. I don't know why, but after 7, 8 months of sitting at home during the pandemic, and now I'm finally on set with some of the greatest actors alive, I was just so extremely excited to be there. That for me was an incredible adventure. Like I've never felt that way before or after that. It was more than a job. It was something else. It was a different experience.
It,
And and I'll tell you one thing about David. Like actors love him.
yeah.
Actors.
Yeah, I've definitely heard that. Now, your biography states something interesting. It states that Kobe Bryant played an important role for you in acting. Elaborate on that.
I was thinking about it. It's been 22 years when I think of me knowing Kobe Bryant, because we met at the All-Star Weekend in 1998, and then I had the chance to have a final little conversation with him like 3 weeks before he had this tragic accident. And back in 2007, I came to LA for a few weeks. I just turned 30 years old, and I
Hmm.
was very successful sports broadcaster, and I could, I could have stayed doing that for the rest of my life, but something inside was telling me that this is not really the path that I should be, following for
Uh-huh.
the rest of my life. And I asked Kobe, like, what should I do? Should I stick to what I have to play it safe, or should I do something crazy and start something from the scratch, start something new in a new city, in the most competitive probably business you can imagine?
Hmm.
And he said, what is your heart telling you? And I said, my heart is telling me to try. He said, always follow your heart.
Wow.
And I remember that the day when he died, it took me like 3 days of, I suffered, a lot after
Yeah.
that happened, because he brought a lot of memories, and he was sort of a mentor for me, like a distant mentor, because we only had conversations a couple of times a year, each year, but he was an important figure in my life. And then I remember what he said, and back then in 2020, I decided to just focus on acting, and pretty much stop doing anything else. And I was doing a few other things like producing and hosting comedy shows, still writing, and I just focused on acting from that day, because it's like that's what his advice was. It makes perfect sense, and I need to listen to him, and I need to,
What
do it.
what a great story. Wow. And no regrets, right? No regrets in following
Yeah,
you? No, that's what I
absolutely,
thought. Now,
100%.
Now you going to the staircase, you learned journalism for that role. Is that typical? Do you do a lot of research depending on how big or small the role is that you have?
Yeah, whenever I can, I try, and whenever I do, actually it pays off. So I should do it every single time. Sometimes you have a like last minute audition, or you have tons of auditions for one day, and it's difficult. But I know from my experience, whenever I do that, it's always working. I had a bunch of different projects and characters from real life that I had to make sure that I do my research, that I read, that I watch documentaries, or even in real life. When
Yeah.
you play police officer, it'll be good to go just to a police station and see how they work, how they behave in normal circumstances, when they get to work, when they leave work, when they go for lunch, what are their interactions between each other, what are their interactions with strangers. It's and listen, like whenever you get a chance to work with someone great like Christian Bale or Robert De Niro, or
Hmm.
because I consider myself a character actor, for me, Michael Stuhlbarg, Michael Shannon are kind of blueprints of what I want to do moving forward, in the latter years of my career.
Yeah.
Whenever you have a chance you learn from them as much as possible because those guys are really committed to the
Yeah,
craft. Very,
exactly.
very committed to the craft.
Exactly. And you know what I've learned by talking to so many actors is no matter how big or how famous or how popular, everybody has self doubts at any given moment. No matter how big you've made it, everyone is their own worst critic in a way. Now, if you were to compare the European entertainment market to what it's like in the United States, do you right now see there's more opportunity for you acting in Europe, or is it here in the United States for you?
So I started here. I built myself from zero. From in my first year, just going to classes and then going to sets as an extra, as a PA, to the point where I can work as an actor. And I never had a chance to work in Europe yet. A couple of times, I got close last year to get a job in the United Kingdom, but because of the Brexit, that complicated things
Yeah,
because now I need a visa to work there. In the past, I wouldn't need to. So that complicated things. Hopefully in the future I'll be able to work in England because I really love what they're doing there, and I have a great agent there, and hopefully that will happen. Um, I would say from in Poland, where I was born, I think the business is different in that way that it's financed by the government in a lot of ways.
mm-hmm.
So the films, I think, they don't have to be successful in the box office,
Mm-hmm.
and it's also I would say a very small group of people who are in the show business comparing to here. And I think the way you're building your career is different here than there, because there I think actors go to like a 4-year college, like
Yeah,
acting university, and then after that they're being hired full time in theaters, and then they have agents who pitch them for film and TV jobs. So it's a different business.
it's a different world, absolutely. Martin, I want to thank you so much for coming on here and just sharing some of your stories. That Kobe Bryant story was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing
Oh,
that.
thank you. Thank you for having me.
Um, I want just a little programming note. Tomorrow we are headed to New York to be covering New York Comic Con over the following weekend. We won't be back on the air till next week, but stay tuned to our social media as we'll be bringing you guys live updates from New York Comic Con. I want to thank our guest again today, Martin Harris, for an amazing chat. I want to thank our audience, those of you guys who've tuned in live, and those of you who'll be watching this later on. Martin, do you have any final thoughts you want to share before we go?
Yeah, I mean, whenever someone has a passion for something, that comes from what Kobe said, I would say it's never too late. There are some actors who started working a lot in their 40s, 50s, and they're very happy because they love the craft. I mean, I think what even Kobe said, and what I'm gonna repeat in my own words is, whatever you love to do, whatever your passion is, just follow your passion, and then things will, and you will be happy in your life because you
Yeah,
are doing what you love to do.
absolutely. I 100% agree with that. Martin, again, thank you so much for coming on here and talking with us. Guys, stay safe, and until we meet up again next week, stay walking. Bye, everybody.